Hey, beautiful. Before you even think about filing for divorce, I need you to hear this. 7 years ago, I was where you are right now. My relationship felt hopeless. The man I loved had become distant, date nights were non existent, and every conversation seemed to turn into an argument or worse, the silent treatment. I was angry, I was resentful, and I was scared, and I felt really alone. But here's the crazy part. Instead of walking away, I decided to try something totally different. And what happened next changed everything. Not only did I get back to that honeymoon phase love, but we built something even stronger together. Hi, everyone. I'm Mireille Nicole, relationship coach and creator of the Happily Ever After method. And today I'm going to share with you exactly what I did so that you can reignite the love in your marriage. I wish I could tell you that my love story was always picture perfect. But the truth is, there was a time when I felt completely alone in my relationship. I was constantly frustrated, I was feeling unheard, and I was exhausted from trying to fix things. And worst of all, my partner didn't want to go to couples therapy. So I felt completely stuck, but I didn't want to give up. And at the same time, I knew that I also couldn't keep going. We couldn't keep going the way things were. So I made a powerful decision. If my partner wasn't going to change, then I would change. Not by becoming a doormat, not by sacrificing my needs, of course, but by doing something drastically different than what I was doing. And that's how I developed the Happily Ever After method, a 4-step approach that took me from the brink of breakup to a love that felt brand new. So let me break it down for you. And before someone comments and says, well, you're encouraging women to stay in relationships or settle when they shouldn't. One thing I want to say about the 4 steps I'm going to share with you in this video is that you're going to want to know these 4 steps, whether you decide to stay or whether you decide to go. A lot of times we tend to repeat our patterns, relationship after relationship. And just for the record, if you don't know my love journey, I was actually divorced. So I am currently married to my dream man, which is my second marriage. So for those of you who are wondering, well, what do you know about, being on the brink of divorce? Well, I was there. I went through divorce and my first marriage didn't work out. And now with my second marriage, I did everything that I could to make this work. All right, let's dive in. Step number 1, you're going to want to work on your emotional world. Start with your emotions. So before anything can change in your relationship, you get to change internally. I know that might sound frustrating to hear, but that's really the biggest difference that happened in my own personal life. And the biggest shift, the clients of mine that have the most success are the ones who can accept a certain level of radical responsibility. Because at the end of the day, the only thing that you can change is yourself. But note, this is not about blaming yourself or taking full responsibility for your partner's behavior. Of course, it isn't. It's not your fault. But we all have a certain role in the relationship. And when we can change how we show up, that radically shifts the dynamic. So it's really about stepping into your power so you can show up as the best version of yourself in love. What does that mean? Number 1, understanding and regulating your emotions so you don't react from anger, fear, or resentment, or whatever negative feeling that you're feeling, which is okay. All our feelings are valid. All our feelings are great. But when we start reacting from them, instead of using them or either using them if they're productive or letting them go if they're not productive so we can respond, that is where the magic happens. This also means releasing emotional baggage from past relationships, from childhood wounds, or unresolved pain that may be affecting how you show up in this relationship. Or maybe it's just also releasing that baggage from things that have happened in your own relationship. I see a lot of women who struggle to move forward because they're so fixated on what their partner or their husband did that they've totally lost focus on where the relationship could go and where they desire it to go. And I'm of the belief that you don't have to heal all your wounds before your relationship can be, wonderful, magical, that fairy tale. One of the beautiful things about relationships is that you guys get to grow together and work on things together. So, and when you know how to do this effectively, the right way, let's just say, this can actually happen. This also means developing self-confidence and self-worth. So you stop seeking validation from your partner and you can start feeling powerful on your own. We give so much power our way to our partners oftentimes. And this can really get us in trouble in terms of the relationship. When we can really make sure that we stay confident, we do things and we, do the self-care that makes us feel that self-worth, like this has a huge impact in the relationship because, like I said earlier, it changes how you show up and it changes how your partner sees you. And that's what's going to reignite the spark. This also means setting and enforcing healthy boundaries that protect your emotional well-being and create safety in your relationship. I always say that I'm not a big fan of boundaries because oftentimes we talk about boundaries in cases of, toxic relationships and narcissism and addiction, right? So it's not the best topic in my opinion, but in certain circumstances, it's going to be necessary. And I feel the best boundaries to have and what applies the most in this situation is going to be to have boundaries with yourself. So internal boundaries. We're also always thinking about, setting boundaries with our partners in terms of what he does and what he's not doing. But remember, the best and the strongest boundaries you can set are the ones with yourself. So for example, if things aren't going good and it's really affecting your mood, setting a boundary for yourself that you're not going to, wallow in it for more than 5 minutes, or if, certain emotions are just coming up and you just can't seem to release them, instead of, staying there or really indulging in them, set a boundary that when this happens for a certain amount of time, you're going to go write in your diary and you're going to release it, or you're going to go for a run or whatever can help you move that energy. Because when you feel confident and emotionally secure and in control of your inner world, everything on the outside shifts. Your partner will feel that change in energy, less stress, less negativity, more warmth and confidence. And this alone can spark major shifts in your marriage. All right, number 2 is understanding men. I'm trying to write really fast, so my writing is horrible right now, but most women don't realize how much they're unknowingly pushing their partner away with their words and their actions because they don't quite yet understand what it is that men value and men are looking for in the relationship. And I know you might be thinking, well, my needs aren't being met. Why would I meet his needs or whatnot? But it's kind of like a chicken and egg situation. So if you guys are really stuck in the negative cycle, you have the opportunity to break that first. I had no idea how much I was unknowingly pushing my husband away. And once I understood the way men think, what they crave, how to bring back that playfulness and that irresistible energy in my relationship, I became magnetic to him again. And the distance between us started to disappear. And we started to genuinely enjoy each other again. Because men and women think, feel, respond to relationships differently. And once you understand this, and not only understand this, but also accept it to a certain level, you'll unlock a whole new connection with him. So what does this mean? This means learning how men process emotions and why they sometimes, withdraw instead of talk things out. Why are they reacting to stress different to us, right? Once we understand this, it all makes sense. And also it means understanding the polarity of masculine and feminine energy and how shifting into your natural feminine side can make you more magnetic and also make him step up in the relationship. It also means knowing how to inspire your man to pursue, cherish, and desire you again without forcing or demanding it or asking it from him, right? And it's also learning how to say less to get more by planting seeds of influence rather than pushing for change. I once worked with a woman who was talking about how she wanted her partner to open up more emotionally. And she kept, trying to ask questions and bring up the conversation so that he would talk more. And it was having the opposite effect. He was really shutting down and building a wall between the two of them. And when we worked together and I was teaching her this concept of more planting seeds into his mind and taking on a whole new approach, he started bringing these walls down and letting her in closer than he ever had in the past. And the reason this works is because when you shift from, frustration and control to confidence and playfulness, your man feels drawn to you. Those emotional weights lift and he starts to engage and connect with you again. I've seen it with my own eyes with the ladies I work with, and I've seen it in my own relationship also. All right, number 3. Learn how to communicate to inspire change. Now, most women think that they need to talk more to get their man to listen or to understand. And we always talk about how, I say we, but you always hear about like communication's the golden standard in relationships. And a lot of times we think that we need to communicate more or more often and have these big, long, in-depth discussion. But the truth is you need to talk better in a way that makes your partner want to listen and engage. And I mastered a way of speaking that made my husband want to step up without the stress. And oftentimes this is just a matter of changing some of the words we use and those sentence structures. It's really, really simple. And no, that doesn't mean you're walking on eggshells. That just means that you're learning a new, more effective way to do things. That old way of yours of communicating is simply a habit that you've picked up. Maybe it was something that you learned growing up and it was modeled by your parents, or just your life circumstances that made you adopt kind of that style or that way of speaking. But that doesn't mean that it's the most effective way. So I want you to open your mind and think, maybe there are other ways for me to communicate my needs. And when you do that, I guarantee you will see a difference. Now, specifically, this means dropping the nagging, the criticizing, or the long emotional monologues that make men shut down. If you want to talk about things, you have other people in your life that you can open up to. I don't recommend that you start, getting into all the nitty-gritty detail of your relationship to all your friends and family and stuff like that, or even your girlfriends, but a certain level of discussion with them and, venting and getting off your chest. Like if you do that with your girlfriends, you will notice that there's a lot more receptivity. Your husband doesn't have to be the only person in your life that fulfills every single need. We also tend to have that idealistic dream or idea that our partner has to be our everything. No, he's a bonus in our life. And yes, he fills like a lot of needs, maybe most needs or maybe many needs, but there's still other important people in your life that have a role to help you support you in life and in your relationship. So use those other people in your life too. It also means learning the magic of powerful phrasing and semantics that actually gets you through to your partner. Don't underestimate the words you use. Words are powerful. It also means asking for what you want in a way that inspires action rather than resistance. We tend to talk in a way that's very punishing a lot of times. I don't know. Can you relate to that? Like I used to do that unintentionally, unconsciously all the time. I felt like if I wasn't communicating my, dissatisfaction with something, then he would have no reason to change. And actually, most times people are more inspired to change, because of something that's good and that's motivating to them and that's exciting, rather than changing something because they feel punished or like they did something really bad. This also means listening more, softening your approach, and understanding your partner's communication style. When you shift how you communicate, your partner will naturally start responding differently. You won't have to force it or be upset. He'll feel safe to open up and be more present and actually take action to meet your needs, which is what you want, right? Which is what we all want, deserve, and need in our relationship. All right. Number 4 is mastering arguments. Can you still see that? Master arguments to make you stronger as a couple. Did you know that 96% of arguments are won or lost in the first 3 minutes? They actually did research. This is John Gottman and his Love Lab that did this research, and they could tell the outcome of an argument right in the beginning. So learning how to fight the right way can change everything. And it has changed everything for me and my husband. There are no more endless battles, no more walking on eggshells, just real productive conversations that made us stronger as a couple and continue to make us stronger as a couple moving forward. I still do these things that I'm sharing with you, these 4 steps, every single day in my relationship, all the time, to keep that happily ever after and to keep our bond strong. Now, most people assume that arguing is bad for relationships, and I used to think this all the time. I used to think that because we weren't agreeing on things or we were having difficult conversations and our emotions were stirring up, that was a bad thing, that maybe we weren't compatible or that maybe we weren't meant to be. But in reality, it's how you handle the arguments that make or break your connection, especially what you do after the arguments. That is the determinant, because conflict, when done right, can actually bring you closer. And I'll never forget when my husband and I, were at our low point in our relationship years 3 to 6 together, I started, this is when I started learning everything I could about relationships and when I started getting my own support. And I was watching this video on YouTube from Abraham Hicks, and it was Esther that was talking about how satisfaction in relationship comes from arguing and overcoming obstacles and solving problems together, or overcoming challenges, I should say, right? So it's actually good to have that. Like when you have nothing going on, not that I want you guys to argue more, right? Not that I'm encouraging people to have conflict in their relationship, but when you get over these things, when you can pass through those things, it actually makes you stronger. Because imagine if nothing's ever happening. Like, how are you growing? I mean, obviously, there are other ways you can probably grow together as a couple, but sometimes conflict can really deepen that connection and that bond because it's really, something big, something emotional, something hard, and overcoming it makes it feel like you guys can do anything together. You guys can conquer the world together. So what does this mean? This means understanding that not every argument needs to be won. That's a big one, right? The goal is connection. It's not victory. It's not who's right, who's wrong. We must let go of that. It's also recognizing your triggers and his triggers so you can break the toxic patterns that keep you in this negative cycle, this loop. It's also learning to de-escalate arguments quickly instead of letting them spiral out of control, which can lead to eventually the silent treatment or worse, right? Most couples argue in a way that causes more distance and damage, but when you learn how to fight smarter, not harder, you can actually use disagreements to strengthen your intimacy and deepen your connection together. I know this works because it saved my relationship, and now I want to help you with this also. So if you're tired of feeling disconnected, exhausted, or like your love is slipping away, then I have something for you. I put together a relationship success checklist with 25 daily actions to take for a happy, healthy, and romantic relationship. No, don't feel overwhelmed by these. You don't have to do them all the time. And they all take less than 5 minutes a day anyways. But these are the exact steps that transform my marriage, and they can do the same for you. Like I said, I still do these things all the time. And anytime I feel like something is off in my relationship, like I go back to that checklist and I see what am I doing wrong, or what am I missing? What am I not doing as consistently as I should? Click the link below to download it and start seeing changes in as little as 2 weeks, because your happily ever after isn't over. It's just the beginning. Now make sure to watch this video next.